So the first tool we have is an AI financial analyst workflow. So this is all about doing investment analysis in H2O GPTe. So here I've set out a workflow with multiple phases using multiple tools. So here in phase one, we want the agent to do market intelligence, so analyze market trends and financial reports. In phase two, we want to make sure that the agent does some compliance checks. So the intelligence that it's gathered and the recommendations it's going to make, we want to make sure those are in line in regulation and meet compliance requirements. Third phase is a risk assessment. So here we might want the agent to calculate exposures and stress test scenarios. And finally, the final phase is an actual investment decision report. And so here, in all these phases, I've laid out possible tools which the AI agent can actually use. So in phase one, Google search and internet access broadly is going to be really important to collect all that market data. In phase two, in the compliance check, not only might we need to access the internet again, but we might need to ask questions about documents, which is this tool in H2oGPTe where documents can be passed to a more advanced reasoning model or more advanced large language model to return insights about documents. And then the risk assessment phase, we might need code execution. And again, this idea of advanced reasoning using a more powerful model to calculate exposure and maybe stress test scenarios. And then finally, Python coding to actually generate the final investment decision report. So I'm actually going to jump over to H2O GPTe now. Okay, so I've opened up H2O GPTe and I've put my prompt in. So I'll walk you through what this prompt does, but essentially it's trying to replicate what I had shown in the slide before where I had those phases. So in this case, we're going to use a specific use case where we're coming from the perspective of a financial analyst within one of the largest banks in Australia, which is the Commonwealth Bank of Australia. So we're a financial analyst at the Commonwealth Bank of Australia in the institutional banking and markets division. And the goal is to evaluate an investment opportunity in H2O.ai. So each phase, again, we're going to look at first market intelligence. So we're going to analyze current market trends in AI and ML, process financial reports, and maybe even look at some news on H2O.ai. The second phase is compliance. So in Australia, we have to pay specific attention to APRA and ASIC, which are specific regulators that are regulating the financial industry, as well as checking other compliance requirements and investment restrictions. Now, the phase three is the risk assessment. So here we want to maybe even calculate some potential exposure to market volatility, also do some stress tests, and I put in here as well, evaluate correlations between H2O.ai's performance and broader technology. And then finally, in phase four, it's the investment decision. So we want to generate recommendations, generate a detailed risk report, and as well present a complete investment case for H2O.ai to CBA's investment committee, including a bunch of requirements here. So of course, we want to have an executive summary, the market positioning analysis, financial projections, and a bunch of other talking points that we'll see generated later on. So we have our prompts. However, in H2GPTe, we still need to do a few things. So the first thing we need to do is go to the bottom here and click Use Agents. So from there, I can already click Launch and start the agentic flow. However, I want to tweak a few things before we go into that. So I'm going to go to the right here and click Customize. Next, I'm going to go to Configuration. And already I can see my Use Agents tab is done. One thing I want to do is change my agent accuracy from basic. And then I want to change it to, for this time, I'm going to go to standard. So I'm going to go good for most tasks. In this case, we want to be rigorous, but not too long. In other use cases, if we want to make sure that this research report is going to be absolutely maxed out with all the market trends and analysis, we want to have the best report possible, we're going to go for maximum. In this case, let's go for standard, somewhere in between. We can also see some other configurations here and also what tools are available to the agent. In this case, I'm happy with everything. I'm going to close this out and I'm going to click Launch. So already we can see that things are underway. We can see here that agentic analysis is starting. However, what does that actually mean? We're gonna click in here, and from there we can see the summary view in step one, what's going on. We can already see some tools that are being utilized at the top. So we have Python coding, internet access, and Google search. However, I want a bit of a more of a deep dive. So I'm going to show thoughts now. And that will essentially give a view into the internal dialogue of the agentic flow in this case. So already we can see that internet access has been used twice. Shell scripting has been used twice, and we can see some sources that have been used. So here we can take a bit of a look into what sources, what websites the agent is looking into to gather news, gather trends, gather general analysis around H2O GPT and what looks like as well the AI market as well. So while this happens, we can go back to the more of the summary view to look exactly at what's happened in the past as well. And at this stage, we can make a decision if we just want to sit back and watch the agents do its thing, or we can continue to show thoughts and let the agent essentially continue its work. So we have the results now for our agentic flow, and we can see exactly what the AI agent outputted. So it has some analysis here that it's done. We can see a bit of a summary mainly, but I really want to see the investment analysis report that it's generated. We also have some recommendations here, but before we go into the analysis report directly, I'd like to point out a few additional functionality that we have at the bottom here. So not only can we see the internal dialogue of the agent, once again, we also have a lot of downloadable files available. So ranging from Python code to website screenshots to even some data that has been picked up in the JSON file here. But really what I want to see is the investment report itself. So I'll go ahead and open that up. And here we see, quite a lengthy document that's been generated with the key headings that we asked for. So particularly the executive summary, the market analysis, even the investment recommendation itself. So using this, we can go ahead and actually build on this again. So we could actually go ahead and ask for some kind of follow-up. We could ask to improve on certain aspects of the report. So maybe I don't like this formatting, for example, or maybe I even want the sources quoted in some kind of bibliography. So I could add that to my prompt again and go ahead and restart that agentic flow process once again. So with that said, we're going to jump back to actually another use case, this time with a little bit of a twist. So we're going to go back to the slides.